I was out of town on business when the text hit my phone. Your electricity bill is past due. I stared at the screen, confused as hell. Our bill this month was through the roof, but Emily and I had both been gone for weeks. The apartment should have been empty. I opened the power company app and checked the daily usage. Sure enough, power was being consumed every single day. And not just a little. It looked like someone was running the AC around the clock. I called Emily. Hey babe, when are you coming home? Her sweet voice came through the line. Probably not until next week. It's been raining nonstop in Seattle. So our project got delayed. Miss me already? I told her I did. But my fingers were already booking a flight home for tomorrow morning. My project had wrapped up early anyway. And I decided not to mention anything to her just yet. The high electricity bill had me spooked. I immediately pulled up the August app for our smart lock. I was worried someone had broken in. But when I checked the access logs, there was nothing. In the past 2 weeks, the lock hadn't been opened once. I tried to think of other explanations. Maybe a neighbor had somehow tapped into our electrical line. But we lived in Riverside Estates, an upscale gated community. Nobody here would risk jail time over a few bucks in electricity. Still, I couldn't think of any other reason, since my project was done. Anyway, I caught the earliest flight home the next morning. When I got to the apartment, Emily was nowhere to be found, just like she'd said. I checked the drawers. All the valuables were still there. Definitely not a burglary. I opened the closet and saw that Emily's usual clothes were gone. She really was away on business. After mulling it over, I went downstairs to talk to building management. My electricity bill is insane. I told them. Nobody's been home for 2 weeks, but I still got charged $300. Security guard, a guy with a friendly smile and these distinctive dimples, nodded at me. Sure thing, man. Let me grab the maintenance guy, and we'll check it out. I LED them back upstairs to the electrical panel. One look and I knew it couldn't be a neighbor stealing power. The panel box was locked. Nobody living in a place like this would go through all that trouble to steal electricity. The electrician examined everything and shook his head. Sir, I don't see anything wrong with your electrical system. I nodded and made up some excuse. Got it. We probably just forgot to turn off the AC before we left. The dimpled guard grinned, showing those distinctive teeth. No problem, man. Just give us a call if you need anything else. Back in the apartment, I searched every room again. I still couldn't find any trace of another person. Was I losing my mind? I collapsed on the bed, exhausted. Then I heard the front door open. I jumped up, grabbed the vase from the windowsill, and hid behind the door. Was it whoever had been staying here? But then I heard the familiar sound of rolling luggage wheels. I set down the vase and looked out. It was Emily. She lit up when she saw me. Babe, you're home early. She threw her arms around me and nuzzled into my chest. I frowned. I thought your project was delayed. Emily sighed. It kept raining in Seattle, and we were just burning through per diem sitting around. Our boss told us to come home. That made sense. Emily's company did outdoor exhibitions. Rain would shut everything down. She grinned up at me. So, why are you home early? I'd never seriously suspected Emily of cheating before, but the situation was weird still. I checked everything and come up empty. We were both on the power company's app. She'd find out about the electricity issue eventually. Anyway, I might as well be honest. We've both been gone, but our electricity bill is crazy high. I was worried someone had gotten in, so I came back to check. Didn't want to worry you. Emily laughed. That tinkling sound I used to love. Oh my God. That's because we forgot to turn off the AC when we left. I just realized yesterday and turned it off remotely. I felt like an idiot. All that worry for nothing. That evening after dinner, something else nagged at me. I opened the router management portal and checked the connection logs. There was an unfamiliar device, an iPhone 16 Plus. My heart dropped. Someone had been in our apartment and Emily had lied about it. But how had they gotten past the smart lock? I couldn't sleep that night. The next morning, I went back down to building management. Different guard was on duty. This time a guy with glasses. Has anyone been to my apartment recently? Since we had the entire floor to ourselves in our building? Checking the camera feeds was easy. The guard pulled up 2 weeks of footage from our floors. Hallway, camera, nothing. Not a single person. This was getting weird. Was the router glitching? I was distracted all day at work. When I got home that evening, I slumped on the couch. Emily came over with her hands behind her back grinning. What's wrong, baby? Why so sad? I tried to push her away, but she pulled out a brand new phone instead. Tata, I was going to wait until your birthday, but you've been so down lately. I wanted to cheer you up. I stared at the new iPhone in disbelief. Since we'd gotten married, this was the first time I'd ever gotten a brand new phone. Usually, I just inherited Emily's old ones when she upgraded, even though we could afford it. She was always frugal about electronics. I was thrilled. This is really for me. Emily nodded. Of course. You've been working so hard lately. You deserve a treat. She kissed me on the cheek. I felt like the worst husband in the world. Emily was so good to me, and here I was suspecting her of cheating. As for the router thing, maybe a neighbor had just used our Wi-Fi. Or maybe the app was glitching. I opened the phone's packaging and powered it on, planning to transfer everything from my old phone. But when I went to log into my Apple ID, I found that someone had already logged in. The packaging had been sealed when I opened it. How could anyone have used this phone before? Had Emily been scammed, bought me a used phone thinking it was new? I stood up to ask her, but then stopped myself. Too many weird things had been happening lately. Should I really confront her now? I hesitated. I was curious about who had owned this phone. I opened the photo gallery, hoping to find some pictures. There were 2 photos. One was taken somewhere in our complex. The other was taken inside our apartment. Second photo showed part of a man's hand. Dark skin, long fingers. Unbelievable. Emily was cheating on me. Both photos were blurry, probably taken by accident. She bought this phone for her affair partner with my money. And now she was pawning off his hand-me-down on me. Emily, you've really outdone yourself. We've been together since college, through years of dating and marriage. I didn't even know when she'd started cheating. All these years I'd killed myself to provide for her, spending 2/3 of the year traveling for work. And all I got for it was a head full of horns. I shut the bedroom door and lit a cigarette, trying to calm down. Emily burst in annoyed. Marcus, are you smoking in here again? I stubbed out the cigarette and went to open the window. I would catch this bastard today. I just couldn't figure out how they bypassed the smart lock. I Googled our lock model to see if there were any known vulnerabilities. Nothing came up. I went over and started massaging Emily's shoulders. Sorry, just stressed about work. Won't happen again. Emily huffed and walked away with that attitude I used to find cute, like an annoyed kitten. Now I just saw her for what she was. A cheater. Later, I went through Emily's nightstand. I counted the condoms. 2 boxes were missing, and there was a new bottle of lube in the back of the drawer. They were really living it up that night. Emily's hand slid over to touch my ABS. I shifted away. Crazy busy at work right now. Need to sleep early. Meeting tomorrow. Emily made an irritated sound but rolled over. The next day at work, I kept watching the router portal on my phone, waiting for that iPhone 16 Plus to connect. Again, it showed up mid-morning. Perfect. He timed it for when I'd normally be at the office. I told my assistant Kevin, family emergency, call me if anything urgent comes up. Kevin nodded. You got it, boss. I drove home like a maniac, pushing my Mercedes to the limit. A 15-minute drive took me 5 minutes. I parked and sprinted upstairs. Emily was in the kitchen wearing an apron, cooking. She only cooked at home when she wasn't traveling for work. She looked surprised to see me. What are you doing home? Did you forget something? I ignored her and tore through the bedroom, the guest room, checking behind curtains, under beds, even outside the windows. No, nothing. Just Emily. Where is he? Where's the guy? Emily followed me into the bedroom. What guy? What's going on with you? I took a deep breath. Where the hell could he be hiding? Emily looked hurt. Marcus, what is wrong with you? I was barely holding it together, shooting her an icy look, but she just kept playing innocent. Carrying the food to the dining table. Is work really that bad? You seem so stressed. I made your favorite braised short ribs. I grunted. Too busy. Can't stay for lunch. This food wasn't even meant for me. Emily was obsessed with her figure. When I wasn't home, she only ate salads and grilled chicken. The short ribs were for him. I went back down to building management. Did anyone come? To my apartment today. It was the dimpled guard again. He held up the footage. We reviewed it twice. The elevator camera only showed me leaving for work and then coming back. Nobody else. Was Emily's affair partner a ghost? I went back to work distracted and confused. At my desk, I stared at my phone trying to figure out why I'd failed to catch them. I'd come home and the guy had vanished. That meant he knew I was coming. But how? Then I looked at my new gift. Used iPhone. No wonder Emily had given me this phone. She was tracking my location that afternoon. The iPhone 16 Plus connected to our Wi-Fi. Again, Emily couldn't even wait a few hours. I deliberately left my phone at my desk and rushed home. I flew up in the elevator ready to catch them in the act. But when I got inside, there was only Emily looking sleepy and disheveled. She rubbed her eyes. Marcus, why are you home again? I searched everywhere. Still no sign of anyone. What the hell? I'd left my phone at the office. How did they still know? I rushed back to work. Kevin called me over quietly when I got back. Dude, you left your phone. The boss was trying to reach you and got pissed. I sighed and went to get chewed out in my boss's office. I was having a smoke break downstairs.
Elite.
After my lecture, I sweet-talked my boss into giving me tomorrow off. Emily had been patient today. Tomorrow she'd make her move. The next morning, I gave the new phone to a coworker and asked him to take it to the office with him. I switched back to my old phone and parked behind our building, eyes glued to the router app, waiting for that iPhone 16 Plus to show up. I'd catch him today, no question. But I waited all day, from dawn to dusk, nothing. I felt completely defeated. They weren't tracking me through the phone. How else were they monitoring my location? The next day, I had to go back to work. The second I sat down at my desk, the iPhone 16 Plus connected. I texted our group chat. Go.
Go, go.
This was humiliating, but I had to deal with it. I called in my boys, my closest friends, and stationed them around the building. The moment I gave the signal, they'd block both my apartment door and the building entrance. Emily could track my location, but she couldn't track my friends. I raced home. I'd finally see who this bastard was. When I got to my floor, my buddies were waiting, trying to calm me down.
Marcos, man. Stay cool.
She's not worth losing it over. I took a deep breath and pushed open the door again. Nothing. We searched every room, just Emily. I felt like I was losing my mind. Was her affair partner actually a ghost? My friends all looked at me like I'd grown a second head, clearly thinking I'd gone crazy. Emily came out in a silk robe, looking half asleep and confused.
Why?
Why is everyone here? My friends exchanged awkward glances. I lost it, pointing at Emily. Where is he? Where's your boyfriend? Hiding. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Marcus, what are you doing? You've been stressed lately, but you can't just accuse me of cheating. She started crying. My friends had watched Emily and me fall in love in college. They'd seen our whole relationship. Seeing her cry, they felt bad, like we'd wronged her. The silence in the room was deafening, broken only by Emily's soft, calculated sobs. Dave, my best man from our wedding, rubbed the back of his neck and stared at the hardwood floor, entirely unable to meet my eyes. Kevin shifted his weight awkwardly, hands shoved deep into his pockets. Look, man, Dave muttered, his voice thick with pity. Not for me, but for her. Maybe you just need some sleep. You've been running yourself ragged with these out-of-town projects. I looked at my friends, my brothers, and saw exactly what Emily wanted them to see. An overworked, paranoid husband having a mental breakdown, terrorizing his innocent, devoted wife. The trap had snapped shut around my ankle, and the more I thrashed, the deeper the teeth dug in. I'm sorry. I forced the words out, the metallic taste of bile rising in the back of my throat. I had to pivot. If I kept pushing now, I'd lose everything, including the element of surprise. I let my shoulders sag, manufacturing a look of utter defeat. You're right. I don't know what's wrong with me. I've just been so stressed about the layoffs at work. My mind is playing tricks on me. Emily's crying hitched. She peeked at me through her fingers, her tear-filled eyes scanning my face for authenticity. I walked over and wrapped my arms around her. She stiffened for a microsecond before melting into my chest, playing the forgiving saint. It's okay, baby, she whispered, her voice trembling beautifully. We'll get you some help. We'll get through this. My friends visibly relaxed, exhaling a collective sigh of relief. After a few awkward pats on my back and promises to grab beers this weekend, they filtered out of the apartment. The moment the deadbolt clicked shut behind them, Emily pulled away. The fragility vanished from her posture, replaced by a chillingly calm demeanor. She wiped a stray tear from her cheek, not looking at me. I'm going to take a bath. Please don't tear the house apart while I'm in there. I won't, I said quietly. I sat on the edge of the bed for an hour, listening to the running water. My mind was racing, connecting the dots that had been invisible to me just days ago. How did the guy escape? How did he bypass the smart lock? How did he know I was coming? I pulled out my phone and pulled up the building's floor plan on the HOA portal. Then I thought about the security system, the cameras, the friendly guard with the dimples who had been so eager to help me check the electrical panel, the guy who controlled the security feeds. I remembered his hands when he held the flashlight in the electrical room. Dark skin, long fingers. A cold sweat broke out over my entire body. I practically ran to the closet, digging through the old shoebox where I kept my important documents. I found the lease agreement and the welcome packet from when we first moved into Riverside Estates. I flipped to the section on the smart locks. Note: in case of digital failure, all units are equipped with a concealed physical keyhole located on the underside of the handle mechanism. Master keys are strictly held by the head of security and building management for emergency access only. Physical key entries do not register on the digital access log. Motherfucker. It hit me with the force of a freight train. The dimpled guard. He didn't need to hack my Wi-Fi. He didn't need to bypass the digital lock. He just used the master key. And the cameras? Of course the hallway was empty when I reviewed the footage with him. He was the one manning the desk. He could loop the feed, delete timestamps, or simply erase the 10 seconds it took for him to slip in and out of my apartment. When I drove home in my Mercedes, my car's RFID tag scanned at the front gate, alerting the security system. Alerting him. He knew exactly when I entered the complex. Today, when I had my friends rush the building, he wasn't tracking my phone. He saw Dave and Kevin pulling up on the perimeter cameras. He simply walked out of my front door, locked it with his master key, and took the fire stairs down before the elevator even reached our floor. He was playing God in my building, and my wife was his willing congregation. The next 3 days were pure psychological torture. I played the role of the broken, apologetic husband to perfection. I bought Emily flowers. I booked her a spa day. I blamed my erratic behavior on a mix of insomnia and a new project deadline. I could see the smug satisfaction radiating from her every time I kissed her forehead. She thought she had completely broken my spirit. She thought she was invincible. On Wednesday, I told her I had to fly to Denver for an emergency client mitigation. I hate leaving you after everything that's happened, I said, zipping up my suitcase. I feel terrible. It's okay, Marcus, Emily said, adjusting my collar with a sympathetic smile. Work is work. Just promise me you'll sleep on the plane? You need to rest. I promise. I didn't take an Uber. I drove my Mercedes to the airport, parked it in long-term parking, and left my phone locked in the glove compartment. I had already bought a cheap burner phone with cash 2 days prior. I took a shuttle to a rental car agency a few miles away and rented a gray, inconspicuous Honda Civic under my corporate account. Before returning to the city, I stopped at a specialized electronics store I had researched. I bought 3 cellular-enabled pinhole cameras. They didn't rely on Wi-Fi, meaning they wouldn't show up on my router's network log for Emily's lover to see. They transmitted directly over a 5G data plan to an app on my burner phone. I drove back to Riverside Estates, but I didn't go through the main gate. I parked the Civic at a strip mall 2 blocks away and walked back. There was a blind spot in the fencing near the trash dumpsters that the HOA had complained about for months. I slipped through the gap, completely bypassing the security cameras and the gate scanner. I took the fire stairs all the way to the 12th floor. I knew Emily was out. She had a Pilates class at noon. I let myself into the apartment and went to work. I installed the first camera inside the front grille of the living room air purifier, angling it to cover the front door and the sofa. The second went into the master bedroom, hidden within the faux foliage of a potted plant on the dresser. The third went into the kitchen, tucked neatly above the cabinets where shadows gathered. I was back out and down the fire stairs within 20 minutes. I checked into a cheap motel a mile away, sat on the lumpy mattress, and opened the app on my burner phone. Crystal clear video feeds. The apartment was dead quiet. Now, I just had to wait. At 1:15 p.m., Emily returned. She walked into the living room, tossed her yoga mat onto the floor, and immediately went to her phone. She typed furiously for a few seconds, smiled, and headed toward the shower. At 1:42 p.m., the front door handle jiggled. I held my breath. The smart lock didn't beep. The deadbolt slid back with a heavy, mechanical clack that usually only happened when the battery died. The door opened. In walked the dimpled guard. He was in his full Riverside Estates security uniform. He locked the door behind him with a brass key, tossed it onto my dining table, and unclipped his heavy-duty belt, letting it hit the hardwood floor with a thud. My blood turned to ice, but my hands were remarkably steady. I hit record on the app. Emily walked out of the bedroom, wearing nothing but the silk robe I had bought her for our anniversary. She practically leapt into his arms. "You're late, Julian," she pouted, wrapping her legs around his waist.
Julian.
So that was his name. Had to wait for the shift change. Julian laughed, carrying her to the sofa. The new guy was asking too many questions about the camera logs. Had to sort him out. "Did you double-check Marcus's car?" "Baby, I watched him pull out of the gate at 8 a.m. His transponder pinged the exit.
He's halfway to Denver by now.
We've got the place to ourselves until Friday." They moved to the bedroom, and I switched to the second camera feed. I sat in that dingy motel room and watched my marriage of 7 years be brutally, graphically dismantled. I felt a sick combination of profound grief and razor-sharp clarity. The mystery was solved. The ghost was flesh and blood. And he was arrogant. After they finished, they lay in my bed, smoking. I cranked the audio on my burner phone to the maximum. "He almost caught us on Monday," Emily said, tracing circles on Julian's chest. "When his frat boy friends showed up. I thought I was going to have a heart attack." Julian chuckled, a deep, rumbling sound. "I told you, I've got eyes everywhere. Your boy Marcus is an amateur." I saw his buddies congregating by the front entrance on the lobby feed. I was out your door, and in the service stairwell before the elevator doors even opened on this floor. By the time he was screaming like a maniac in here, I was downstairs eating a donut at the front desk. "You're terrible," Emily giggled. "But we really need to be careful." He noticed the electricity bill from when I was in Seattle. I had to play dumb about leaving the AC on. Julian groaned. Yeah, that was my bad. But come on, you were gone for 2 weeks. My AC at my place was busted, and it was 90 degrees outside. I just brought a few of the night shift guys up here to watch the playoffs, drank some of his expensive scotch. Nobody was supposed to know. I didn't think he was the type to micromanage his utility app. My hands gripped the edges of the motel desk so hard my knuckles turned white. He brought his friends into my home. While I was working 80-hour weeks to pay the mortgage, this parasite was using my apartment as his personal VIP lounge. Well, just lay low on that, Emily said. And what about the phone? Did you wipe it properly? Of course I did, Julian said defensively. It was sitting in the gym lost and found for 6 months. Some rich kid left it. I wiped it clean. Why? Did he suspect something? He was looking at it weird, Emily said. But I played the frugal wife card, and he ate it up. He felt so guilty, he practically apologized for breathing. Julian laughed out loud. God, he is such a pathetic mark. You've got him trained well. I stopped the recording. I had heard enough. I didn't want to just expose them. Exposing them would lead to a messy divorce where Emily would cry in mediation, claim I neglected her, and walk away with half my assets, my pension, and the apartment. Julian would just get fired and move on to another security job.
No.
That wasn't good enough. Julian had confessed on tape to using my apartment while both Emily and I were away. He confessed to bringing unauthorized people into the unit. He confessed to stealing a phone from the resident lost and found. That wasn't just infidelity. That was felony breaking and entering. That was trespassing. That was theft. And Emily? Emily was an accomplice. I spent the next 24 hours in the motel room orchestrating a bloodbath. First, I called my lawyer, a vicious, no-nonsense guy named Eris who had handled my company's corporate contracts. I explained the situation, forwarded him the videos via a secure server, and told him exactly what I wanted to happen. This is beautiful, Eris said, his voice practically purring over the line. The infidelity is one thing. A judge might not care much about that in a no-fault state. But the security guard abusing a master key to unlawfully enter a domicile? Stealing property from the HOA? The liability for the property management company is astronomical. They will throw him to the wolves to avoid a multi-million-dollar lawsuit from you. We can freeze the joint accounts immediately under the pretext of securing assets from theft, since she is complicit in allowing an intruder access to the property. Do it, I said. Empty the joint. Move it to the private trust.
Done.
What's the play for the confrontation? Eris asked. I need the police, and I need the HOA president, I said. If I go in there alone, Julian might get violent, or they'll just deny it and claim I let him in. I need them caught in the act by authorities. I'll handle the police, Eris replied smoothly. I have a contact at the precinct. I'll tell them we have an active, ongoing burglary at a high-end estate involving a compromised security system. They'll send units quietly. Next, I found the phone number for Richard Vance, the HOA board president. Richard was a retired corporate litigator, incredibly strict and fiercely protective of the building's prestige. I called him. Marcus? It's Thursday. I thought you were in Denver, Richard said. Richard, I need you to listen to me very carefully, I said. Your head of security has a master key. He has been using it to break into my apartment and likely others when residents are out of town. He uses the units to throw parties and steal items. I have him on high-definition video.
There was a dead silence on the line.
Then, Richard's voice came back, cold and sharp as a razor. Are you certain? I am watching him on a live feed right now, I lied. He is in my apartment. I am with my attorney, and we are coordinating with the police. I am giving you the courtesy of being there, so you can see your security breach firsthand before the lawsuits start. Where are you? Richard demanded. Meet me at the corner of 5th and Elm in 20 minutes. Do not alert the front gate. An hour later, I was sitting in the back of an unmarked police cruiser. Detective Miller, a gruff guy who Eris had briefed on the way over, was reviewing the footage on an iPad. Next to him, Richard Vance looked like he was about to have a stroke. This is a nightmare, Richard muttered, his face pale. If the other residents find out, they won't, if we handle this quietly and cleanly, Eris said from the front seat. We catch him in the act. You fire the security firm today, and we keep this out of the press. My guys are ready, Detective Miller said, handing the iPad back to me. Since he has a master key and controls the cameras, we can't drive the cruisers through the main gate. He'll see us coming. We use the blind spot by the dumpsters, I said. We go through the side door. Take the fire stairs. To the 12th floor? Miller raised an eyebrow. Gonna be a hell of a climb. I'll walk it twice if I have to, I said. We moved like a tactical strike team. 3 uniformed officers, Detective Miller, Richard, my lawyer Eris, and me. We slipped through the broken fence. The officers moved swiftly and silently, weapons holstered but hands ready. Richard was huffing and puffing by the 5th floor, but the sheer rage fueling him kept him moving. We reached the 12th floor stairwell landing. Detective Miller cracked the heavy fire door open and peeked down the hallway. "Clear," he whispered. We stepped out onto the plush carpet. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. We stacked up outside my front door. I pulled out the burner phone and checked the live feed. Julian was in the kitchen, wearing only his boxer briefs, making a sandwich. Emily was sitting on the kitchen island, laughing at something he said, wearing one of my oversized dress shirts. "They're in the kitchen," I whispered to Miller. "He's unarmed. Security belt is on the living room floor." Miller nodded.
He looked at me.
"Your house, sir. Open it." I took a deep breath. I didn't use the app. I pulled out my physical house key, slid it into the concealed lock beneath the handle, and turned it. The door swung open. The cops poured in first. "Police. Nobody move. Show me your hands." The scene was absolute chaos. Julian dropped the butter knife, his eyes widening in pure terror. He scrambled backward, slipping on the hardwood floor and crashing into the refrigerator. Emily screamed, a high, piercing sound, pulling my dress shirt tight around her legs. "What is happening? Marcus?" I walked in behind the officers, with Eris and Richard flanking me. The look on Emily's face when she saw me was something I will cherish for the rest of my life. The smug, condescending warmth was gone. It was replaced by a hollow, breathless panic. "Marcus?" she gasped, looking between me, the cops, and Richard. What are you doing here?" This is a misunderstanding." "Save it, Emily," I said, my voice eerily calm. I looked at Julian, who was being shoved against the kitchen counter by an officer, his hands being wrenched behind his back. "Julian," I said, leaning in close. "How's the sandwich?" "Man, listen to me," Julian stammered, sweat pouring down his face. "She invited me in. I didn't break in. She let me in." "Is that true, Mrs. Vance?" Detective Miller asked, looking at Emily. Emily burst into tears, her default defense mechanism.
No.
"I mean, yes, but—" "Marcus, please. We were just—" "She can invite you into her bed, Julian," I said smoothly. "But she can't authorize you to bypass the digital lock using the HOA's emergency master key. And she certainly can't authorize you to break into my home to host parties for your security guard friends while we were both in Seattle. I've got you on tape confessing to all of it." Julian froze. "Tape." Also, Eris stepped forward, adjusting his tie. "My client is pressing charges for the theft of the iPhone you purloined from the building's lost and found, which, coincidentally, you also confessed to on tape." Richard Vance stepped forward, his face purple with rage. "You are finished, Julian. The security contract is terminated as of this minute. I am personally ensuring the DA throws the book at you for abusing the master keys. We are going to audit every single key log in this building." "Let's go," Miller said, snapping the handcuff shut. They dragged Julian, in his boxer briefs, through the living room. Emily slid off the counter, sobbing hysterically. She reached for me, her hands shaking. "Marcus, baby, please. It was a mistake. He meant nothing to me. It was just a stupid mistake." I stepped back, letting her hands grasp empty air. "A mistake is forgetting to turn off the AC," I said coldly. "What you did was a lifestyle. Marcus, please don't do this. We've been together since college. You're my whole life." "Eris," I said, ignoring her. My lawyer opened his briefcase and pulled out a stack of documents. He placed them on the kitchen island, right next to the half-made sandwich. "Mrs. Vance," Eris said politely. "These are the divorce filings. Furthermore, you will find a notice of eviction. As my client purchased this property prior to your marriage, and the funds used for the mortgage are solely his, you have 30 days to vacate. Given your complicity in a felony burglary, any attempt to contest this will result in us handing the audio recordings of your conversations over to the district attorney, implicating you as a co-conspirator." Emily stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. Her breathing became erratic. You emptied the accounts," she whispered, looking at an attached bank statement. "I secured my assets from a known accomplice to theft." I corrected. "Your clothes are in the closet. The used iPhone is yours to keep. I recommend you start looking for a cheaper data plan." I turned my back on her.
I didn't yell.
I didn't break anything. I just walked out the door. 2 months later, the dust had completely settled. Julian was indicted on 3 counts of burglary, unauthorized use of a master key, and petty theft. The security company, terrified of the impending lawsuit from Eris, settled out of court for a sum so large I could comfortably retire tomorrow if I wanted to. Emily tried to fight the divorce, bringing in a shark of a lawyer to claim half of my business assets. But the moment Eris played the audio recording in mediation, The recording where Emily laughed about Julian bringing strangers into my home and stealing property. Her lawyer quietly packed up his briefcase and advised her to sign whatever we put in front of her to avoid criminal accessory charges. She ended up moving into a cramped, noisy studio apartment on the bad side of Seattle. I heard through mutual friends that she was working as a receptionist at a car dealership, struggling to make rent. Dave and Kevin, my frat boyfriends who had thought I was crazy, took me out to a steakhouse and apologized profusely for an entire evening. I let them pay the bill. I kept the apartment. The HOA installed a brand new, state-of-the-art security system, entirely digital, with no physical master keys allowed without a dual authorization code from the board president and the resident. It was a quiet Tuesday evening. I was sitting on my leather sofa, sipping a glass of 20-year-old scotch, enjoying the absolute, pristine silence of my home. The new router blinked green in the corner. I opened the app on my phone and checked the connection logs. Only one device connected.
Mine.
I smiled, closed the app, and turned off the AC. Electricity isn't cheap, after all.